Hey, welcome back to episode 3 of my reading of Harry Frankfurt's On Bullshit, a book that I urge all of you to get. It's tiny, you can keep it in your pocket, and you can scandalize people by reading it in public. It's worth every penny of the price they charge for it. When we left off in episode 2, we concluded with the phrase that Harry had made: it is just this lack of connection to a concern with the truth, this indifference to how things really are, that I regard as the essence of bullshit. Again, that's the critical point and really the essence of the book. Now he's going to expand on it, make some other points as well. So we're going to read about another dozen pages, and then in episode 4, we're going to wrap the whole thing up and read the book all the way through. Now I shall consider quite selectively certain items in the Oxford English Dictionary that are pertinent to clarifying the nature of bullshit. The OED, which, by the way, is what the cognoscenti refer to the Oxford English Dictionary as, the OED. The OED defines a bull session as an informal conversation or discussion, especially of a group of males. Now, as a definition, this seems wrong. For one thing, the dictionary evidently supposes that the use of the term bull in bull session serves primarily just to indicate gender. But even if it were true that the participants in bull sessions are generally or typically males, the assertion that a bull session is essentially nothing more particular than an informal discussion among males would be as far off the mark as the parallel assertion that a hen session is simply an informal conversation among females. It is probably true that the participants in hen sessions must be females. Nonetheless, the term hen session conveys something more specific than this concerning the particular kind of informal conversation among females to which hen sessions are characteristically devoted. I'm going to stop here and just remind everyone, this was originally written in 1985, which to someone my age doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was 35 years ago, and it was common to use these phrases. I don't think I've heard anybody say hen session in 2 decades, and I don't think anyone even refers to that anymore. You will still commonly hear bull session. Back to the book. What is distinctive about the sort of informal discussion among males that constitutes a bull session is, it seems to me, something like this. While the discussion may be intense and significant, it is in a certain respect not for real. Okay, that's the characteristic of a bull session. It's not real. The characteristic topics of a bull session have to do with very personal and emotion-laden aspects of life. For instance, religion, politics, or sex. People are generally reluctant to speak altogether openly about these topics if they expect that they might be taken too seriously. What tends to go on in a bull session is that the participants try out various thoughts and attitudes in order to see how it feels to hear themselves saying these things, and in order to discover how others respond. Without it being assumed that they're committed to what they say, it is understood by everyone in a bull session that the statements people make do not necessarily reveal what they really believe or how they really feel. The main point is to make possible a high level of candor and an experimental or adventuresome approach to the subjects under discussion. Therefore, provision is made for enjoying a certain irresponsibility, so that people will be encouraged to convey what is on their minds without too much anxiety that they will be held to it. I have to tell you, reading this 20 years before the very beginnings of social media, it feels remarkable. It also feels like a particularly accurate description of the way most people approach social media, and an explanation for why it also comes back to bite them on the ass later. Back to the book. Each of the contributors to a bull session relies, in other words, upon a general recognition that what he expresses or says is not to be understood as being what he means wholeheartedly or believes unequivocally to be true. The purpose of the conversation is not to communicate beliefs. Accordingly, the usual assumptions about the connection between what people say and what they believe are suspended. The statements made in a bull session differ from bullshit in that there is no pretense that this connection is being sustained. They are like bullshit by virtue of the fact that they are in some degree unconstrained by a concern with truth. This resemblance between bull sessions and bullshit is suggested also by the term shootin' the bull, which refers to the sort of conversation that characterizes bull sessions and in which the term shooting is very likely a cleaned up rendition of shitting. The very term bull session is indeed quite probably a sanitized version of a bullshit session. A similar theme is discernible in a British usage of bull, in which, according to the OED, the term refers to unnecessary routine tasks or ceremonial, excessive discipline or spit and polish equaling red tape. The dictionary provides the following examples of this usage. This is very common, by the way, for the OED to cite a definition and then refer to extant examples in print or in common language for that definition. So this is the definition he's citing. The squadron felt very bolshy about all that bull that was flying around the station, from I Gleed, A Rise to Conquer, 1942. Them turning out the guard for us marching past Eyes Right, all that sort of bull, from A. Barron, Humankind, 1953. The drudgery and bull in an MP's life. That was in The Economist, February 1958. Here, the term bull evidently pertains to tasks that are pointless in that they have nothing much to do with the primary intent or justifying purpose of the enterprise which requires them. Spit and polish and red tape do not genuinely contribute, it is presumed, to the real purposes of military personnel or government officials, even though they are imposed by agencies or agents that purport to be conscientiously devoted to the pursuit of those purposes. Thus, the unnecessary routine tasks or ceremonial that constitute bull are disconnected from the legitimating motives of the activity upon which they intrude, just as the things people say in bull sessions are disconnected from their settled beliefs, and as bullshit is disconnected from a concern with the truth. The term bull is also employed in a rather more widespread and familiar usage as a somewhat less coarse equivalent of bullshit. In an entry for bull, as so used, the OED suggests the following is definitive: trivial, insincere, or untruthful talk or writing, nonsense. Now, it does not seem distinctive of bull either that it must be deficient in meaning or that it is necessarily unimportant. So, nonsense and trivial, even apart from their vagueness, seem to be on the wrong track. The focus of insincere or untruthful is better, but it needs to be sharpened. The entry at hand also provides the following two definitions. 1914 Dialectic Notes, 162, page 162. Bull, talk which is not to the purpose. Hot air. 1932 Times Literary Supplement, December. Bull is the slang term for a combination of bluff, bravado, hot air, and what we used to call in the Army, kidding the troops. Not to the purpose is appropriate, but it's both too broad in scope and too vague. It covers digressions and innocent irrelevancies, which are not invariably instances of bull. Furthermore, saying that bull is not to the purpose leaves it uncertain what purpose is meant. The reference in both definitions to hot air is more helpful. When we characterize talk as hot air, we mean that what comes out of the speaker's mouth is only that. It is mere vapor. His speech is empty, without substance or content. This would probably be a good point to drop in a clip of some of Donald Trump's responses to questions he's been asked recently. His use of language, accordingly, does not contribute to the purpose it purports to serve. No more information is communicated than if the speaker had merely exhaled. There are similarities between hot air and excrement, incidentally, which make hot air seem an especially suitable equivalent for bullshit. Just as hot air is speech that has been emptied of all informative content, so excrement is matter from which everything nutritive has been removed. Excrement may be regarded as the corpse of nourishment, what remains when the vital elements in food have been exhausted. In this respect, excrement is a representation of death that we ourselves produce, and that, indeed, we cannot help producing in the very process of maintaining our lives. Perhaps it is for making death so intimate that we find excrement so repulsive. I gotta be honest, that's a stretch, Harry. It's intrinsically repulsive, particularly on a hot day. In any event, it cannot serve the purposes of sustenance any more than hot air can serve those of communication. Now consider these lines from Pound's canto, which the OED cites in its entry on bullshit as a verb. Now, I'm going to read these lines from Ezra Pound's very famous and impenetrable series of poems, the cantos, which I have never been able to read with enjoyment. I'm going to skip the footnote where he cites the context because I don't want to embarrass myself trying to read Latin. But Pound was this genius, brilliant poet who also kind of went mad and also was a fascist. So you may want to think about that as, you may want to divorce the man from his politics or the poetry. Do what you will with it. This is the quote from Pound. Hey, Snag, what's in the Bible? What are the books of the Bible? Name 'em. Don't bullshit me. This is a call for the facts. The person addressed is evidently regarded as having in some way claimed to know the Bible, or as having claimed to care about it. The speaker suspects that this is just empty talk and demands that the claim be supported with facts. He will not accept a mere report. He insists upon seeing the thing itself. In other words, he is calling the bluff. The connection between bullshit and bluff is affirmed explicitly in the definition with which the lines by Pound are associated. As verb, transitive and intransitive. To talk nonsense, also to bluff one's way through something by talking nonsense. Bluff one's way through something by talking nonsense. We all have people in our lives or moments in our lives where we ourselves have tried to do that. It does seem that bullshitting involves a kind of bluff. It's closer to bluffing, surely, than to telling a lie. But what is implied concerning its nature by the fact that it is more like the former than it is like the latter? Just what is the relevant difference here between a bluff and a lie? We're going to stop here for this reading. And I want you to think about that. What is the relevant difference between a bluff and a lie? Because that difference is going to be essential to the nature of bullshit and give it its particular character as not a harmless thing. All right. Thanks for paying attention.